Welcome back. Restaurants and other businesses could be legally barred from keeping tips intended for their employees if, that is, a new bill is passed. The Conservative MP who's bringing this forward, Dean Russell, joins us on the programme. Mr Russell, great to have you on the programme this morning. Just explain the thinking behind this, the necessity for a change to the law to ensure that people get their tips.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to share this. For me, it's about fairness. And over the years, most businesses have been very fair with their staff. And if a tip is given by a customer, whether they're in a hairdresser's or a restaurant or elsewhere, you tend to know, especially with cash, that that person's going to be able to keep that, or if they pool it with their colleagues, they'll get to share that fairly. But some businesses don't do that. And as we see with the rise of credit card payments, we've seen through COVID, actually less places take cash at the moment. I just want to make sure that people, when they're given a tip, that they get to keep it. And I think it's about fairness. It's about simplicity, but also it's about making sure that, especially in the hospitality sector, which affects my constituency, that people know where they stand.
Yeah, indeed. Can we put a number, even a ballpark figure, on how much money people might be missing out on because employers are sticking it in their back burner?
Well, the scale is hard to tell at the moment. I mean, there was a study in 2016 by the government which looked into this and which very much formed the idea of setting up this bill. And it has been talked about in the Conservative manifesto previously, and in the Queen's speech it was briefly mentioned in 2019, but it hasn't yet come through. And so for me, it's the scale could be into the hundreds of thousands, could be into the millions, but it'd be good to make sure that anybody, whether it's somebody being given a pound tip or whether it be given 5 or 10 quid at the end of a meal, that they know that they'll get to keep that.
It has certainly been, well, more than a handful of years since I worked in the hospitality industry. But the one thing I remember is that back in the dim and distant past when I did, the situation in the UK was markedly different from that in the United States, where, essentially tips form part of the salary. Have we, since I left the Sheesh Mahal in Ayr many, many years ago, have we seen that start to change here in the UK?
It's not so much, I don't think employers are seeing it as part of the salary, but it's almost the opposite, where businesses in some instances, and this isn't the case for everyone, but businesses sort of see it as part of the money that they should keep. And for me, that seems totally unfair. And I think if you're, as a customer, paying a tip to somebody for good service or for whatever reason that you choose, that you assume that that money is going into the pocket of the person you're giving it to. And I think in the days where cash was the norm, that very much was the case. And I think it was easier to be able to feel confident with that. But increasingly, if any of us think about the last time that we did go out, usually we pay by card. And so what I want to make sure is that if somebody tips by card as well, that money definitely does go to the person that you want to give it to.
I mean, you've mentioned COVID yourself, Mr Russell. Everything we do these days is viewed through the prism of the pandemic. But I suppose there were people there sitting this morning thinking, look, now we are able to get back out, now that we are able to start enjoying ourselves, the industry needs an awful lot of help. And frankly, those who are working in hospitality are often some of the poorest paid people in the country. They deserve to have this money in their pocket.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they always have. But I think, in my constituency in Watford, for example, we have a lot of hospitality businesses, but a lot of people that work in the hospitality industry. I mean, you're talking millions of people here. And so for me, knowing that they can pocket the money that they've been given, seems absolutely fair. And I suppose in a way one would hope that you wouldn't need to have a law for this. And I'm not one that wants to legislate for everything. But I think given the fact that we're increasingly going to a cashless society, which also has its downfalls, I would say, in other ways. But when we're moving in that direction, we want to make sure that the people we're giving a tip to get that tip. Or at least if within a business, if there's an agreement within the staff, that they will pool it in a fair way.
Mr Russell, we're just about to run out of time, but before you go, first reading, second reading later on in the year, what do you think the chances are of this going through? Have you got any kind of tacit nods from those who sit in the front bench?
Well, I'm very, very hopeful. I mean, it has been mentioned, like I say, in the Conservative manifesto previously. It's been mentioned in the Queen's speech previously. So I'm just sort of really trying to put a rallying cry to make sure it does go through. And I'm confident, but you never know. Politics is is one of those games you never quite know what you're going to get. But I'm going to keep pushing on it, hopefully do some more media on it, and being able to have the opportunity this morning to talk about it is really appreciated.
Dean Russell, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Time now for the weather. Here's Joe.